Today on Knife Banter, we're talking survival knives. How's it going, guys, and welcome to Knife Banter. Today we are sitting down with Joe Flowers of Bushcraft Global. Thanks for being with us.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we are going to be talking 5 survival knives you may not have considered. So this is actually Joe's list. I might have snuck 1 or 2 at the end. But Joe, if people don't know who you are you? What do you do before we jump into these knives?
Hey guys, I'm Joe Flowers and I own Bushcraft Global, jungle survival skills down in South America. I also design for Condor tool and knife, tops knives, and just am out there in the knife world, more or less. And absolutely love machetes.
Yeah, big machete guy. First knife on the table is machete. We have a sweet machete video with you. Let's talk about this first knife that you got. I've got one, sure. You got one. Why don't you show it off and I'll grab mine out.
Okay, so I picked the Condor DUKU. Disclaimer, I did design this one. And it's a smaller survival blade, and a gentleman named Ray Mears really popularized the parang, which, this has a point down the center line, full tang on the sides, and it has this little brass embellishment on it, which is braided brass, but you can choke up on it, use it for small things, chop with it really, really well, but it's small enough to fit in a pack that won't scare people off. You have it. You can see this one's been used a lot. I tried to pick some of the knives that I used the most rather than what I think, everybody wants to see. Show them what a pretty one looks like.
Yeah, so this is what it would look like brand new, all shiny.
Wow. And
I really like the, I know it's just an aesthetic feature, but I really actually like that brass wrap. It's really neat looking.
How neat is that?
So, back in the day with the brass wrap, they used to use it down in South America because the indigenous really thought it looked macho on their machetes. Condor knew how to do that, and so we just put it on there and tried to make it so that it was really down in the handle, so that that way it wouldn't rub up on the thumbs when you use it. Now this one is the prototype. It doesn't have the Condor logo on it, but it comes with a really big leather sheath, and it's definitely not something that you'd think of as your first survival knife, pick. And I wanted to do some things that were really, really odd that people didn't always go to.
I actually really appreciate that. I was excited when I got your list because, to be honest, I was only familiar with one of the knives on the list that you sent me. And I was like, whoa, these are really neat.
How neat is that?
And I like that we started, sure, you designed it, and I think that's great because you can speak on it. But I actually like that you started with machete because we sat down and talked machetes a while ago.
Yeah.
And they are such versatile tools. I think, in North America, for a lot of North America, we're used to using an axe, right? I grew up in the West.
Yes.
I've used an axe for everything, right? Besides clearing a couple acres of weed for my grandma, I did that with a machete once. But, down in the Southeast, they use machetes down there. And then obviously, south of the equator, a lot of machete use. So it's cool to see machete on there, especially one that you've designed because you spend a little bit of time in the bush, if I'm right.
Yeah, a lot of time. And I've spent a lot of time with people who are way better than me in the bush too. And we still use axes out there. We have this American frontiersman heritage, and that's why we all think, we love axes, or at least I think everybody loves axes. But I see so many people using machetes out there. I'm just like, seeing people kill lots of things and make lots of things with them. So I had to put a machete in there.
I love it. Super versatile. All right, and then the next up, I guess I'm going to preface this. All of these were a surprise. Like I said, I was really stoked to see the selection that you had. But this next one is a K-Bar.
Yes. K-Bar is a really awesome company, made in Olean, New York. And I believe the name of this is a Mark I.
Yeah.
And you can see mine is once again beat up like crazy. Now, the interesting thing about this, can you hold yours back up there?
Yeah.
It has a full flat grind with a secondary bevel. K-Bar finishes their edges with an 80 grit, but they do it in some kind of insane magic way. But can you show the pommel on that particular blade? It's just like the other K-Bars, your traditional K-Bar. And what this reminded me of, and I don't know if I'll be able to put them in the same shot, was the Skookum bush tool, designed by Morris Kahansky, which is a very, very popular survival knife, and it has a smashing pommel and a point almost down the center line. And holy cow, so does this guy. It has almost a point down the center line, smashing pommel, very ergonomic handle, and it's made in the U.S. and it's not one people normally think about. And I just think it's a fantastic knife. Some of these bushcraft knives, they all have thumb ramps. So does this one. You can choke up on it and do that. And not a lot of people think about it. Ambidextrous sheath that can click in both ways.
That's what I was gonna say. Is my biggest failing with a fixed blade is I always put the dang thing in backwards. So I love a good ambidextrous sheath.
Yeah, and the sheath on this is wild. And for the price, it's a really cool blade. Especially people don't ever look at it. There's a leather handled version too, which is on your website, I believe. And it's just a really cool introduction blade.
Yeah, and speaking of price, that first machete that we looked at, that goes for about $85 on the website, and this Mark I goes for $65 on the website. So like you said, both not just good tools, but also great introductory price when you're looking to just kind of get into the bushcrafting survival game.
Yeah, and they're both really, really rugged. I tried to pick some stuff that I've used a lot. You'll see for sure on the next one. But I know the companies are really, really reputable, and they all, as far as I know, they all have lifetime warranties on every single knife that we're showing here.
Yeah, if not lifetime, these companies do back up the project really good. Warranties. Now, you've mentioned twice having the point down the center line. What's the advantage with that?
Well, the point down the center line is easier for control of the blade when you're doing prying situations. In some cases, it's either a whole big flat chisel ground device like the Becker, the Becker tool that I can't think of right now, made by K-Bar, or you're able to pry really easily because you know where the tip is. And when it's down the center line, you kind of know where your hand is. I'm going to go ahead and show off the next one because you know where your hand is, and that way you're able to pry. And that's something that we just do a lot with bushcraft tools. And a lot of other tools as well. If it's something with a huge upswept tip, then you have to kind of go in there and pry it differently. So that's not the only preference out there for a bushcraft knife, but it's what people seem to like.
Oh, that's good. And I think when we're talking EDC knives a lot, and when you talk EDC knives, you never want to pry. Well, generally, you never want to pry with your EDC knife, right? But with a bushcraft knife or a survival situation, you could find yourself where prying is really essential. So that's something I didn't know.
That's actually a really good point. When I'm thinking of prying, I'm thinking of like lifting a piece of wood off of another piece of wood to make like a channel, or to make like a notch, or just to kind of pry something out. I'm not talking about prying like a fence staple out of a post. Something the tip can handle. And a lot of guys
prying a bolt out of your engine block or something like that.
Right. We're not trying to pull the MacGyver episodes where we're unscrewing stuff with the tip of our knife blade. So that's what I'm saying in reference to prying on some type of medium that's acceptable for your knife not to be abused or your warranty to be forsaken. For sure. And so speaking of that next knife, now this one's a Spyderco, and it with H1 blade, right? Yes, and that's one of the reasons I like it. Now mine's old school. I've had mine for a very, very long time. I used to write for Tactical Knives magazine, and if I focus up there, you can kind of see she's been around for a while. Their new version of the AQUA Salt is all black, with the black coating. And it's a fantastic blade, but the H1 edge is super, super, super stain resistant. I take it every time I go scuba diving, or every time I go snorkeling, every time I'm out in my canoe, and I can hit up the edge really fast, really carefully. Instead of like sitting there with some of the other blade steels for a while, just like working it and going, why am I taking like 30 minutes? I can go on a ceramic stone, and I'll be good to go with that. And it's just a fantastic design that I've really, really liked. I've really taken a liking to H1 steel.
Yeah, the funny thing is H1, we love H1. We've done a ton of testing personally here at Blade HQ with H1. We've got a couple videos featuring it. We went out and talked to a guy who is he's a skin diver, and he'll go diving out there on California coast and hunt fish with his spear and all this. And he's like, yeah, I just keep this H1. I think he has a fish hunter, and he's like, I just keep this H1 fish hunter on my boat, and I wash it off in the ocean. I leave it in here year round, no rust. Like, they're amazing. But I've never thought about them as in a bushcraft or a survival situation. But I guess if you're out, our video guy Jamie, he went out to the Boundaries waters a lot up there in the Midwest, the northern Midwest, and that would be a great place, I guess, for that, where you're in a lot of water.
Yeah, and the other thing is you have it on your side when you're in a canoe or on a boat fishing, and you can pull it out of the sheath really easily, slam it back in really fast. You don't have to sit there and figure out which way it's facing, and it's quick too. So Jaws is coming at you, bam, you can shake him in the face. Don't shake Jaws.
See, here's the thing. Yeah, I'm from Las Vegas, man, so I'm a desert rat. So yeah, if the water gets too deep, I can't see the bottom. I don't know if I'm going in. And that one kind of steps up a little bit in price. That one goes for about $133, but definitely more specialty, right? With that H1 steel. And it's nice to know I've never used H1 enough to have to service it regularly. So it's nice to know that it's actually really easy to touch those edges up in the field. Now,
I'm not going to digress, but the LC200 is pretty darn awesome as well. There's a whole awesome story with that, with a Spyderco Caribbean, I believe, that I had. But that's a story for a different time.
Well, let us know in the comments, guys, if we need to have Joe back on and tell a story. We'll get a Caribbean on the table and we'll talk about it. All right, cool. So the next one up is one from Tops, right?
Yes. And like I said before, I didn't want to pick all my designs. I have designed for Tops, but one of my best friends in the knife world, and one of the gentlemen who I started Bushcraft Global with, he hammers knives out in the middle of the jungle out of VW car springs with like zero power tools. And his name is Goran Mikhailovich, and he has the TANIMBOCA PUUKKO that he made with them, and it's just a fantastic, sexy knife. Mine's been used a bit here and there, and it's got a bow drill divot. It's got multiple areas for lashing in case you want to try and get some of that yummy jungle fruit. It's got that Scandivex grind, but it just doesn't poke around on your belt. Unlike the machete that we showed at the beginning, it's there dangling. This is just there. It's classy. It's a very, very simple yet ergonomic design. The handle's rounded, which you do not normally see with Tops or some other knife makers in the U.S. too. So it's just a very, very, really cool compact blade.
Yeah, I really like the look of this one. I do have two questions for you, though. So you mentioned lashing. Is that why you have these hollow points here? Is that to lash to a stick, or is that just what Tops did to pin it together?
It's what Tops did to pin it together.
Okay.
But, Goran comes from a tropical country, comes from Colombia. He literally lives in the jungle. And, sometimes getting some of the different coconuts and berries up there are hard to get. So there have been different ways for people to get them down there, whether they use a hook that they made on the end, or they might have to first hit it a little bit with the knife. I can't say for sure that Goran's actually lashed this himself. He might
for sure.
On that, but hey,
for sure, yeah.
you can do it. Honestly, I have done it before to get stuff in the U.S.
Okay, cool.
Not the Spear Predator.
My other question is bushcrafting knives and survival knives, the more traditional styles. Why do they sit so low like this? It feels like it's always a bugger to get the knife out, and that's when it's new, right? I know once you've done it a bunch, the sheath breaks in a bit. It's easier to get it in and out. But why the low sitting like this with the leather sheaths?
Because you're squatting a lot in a bushcraft situation. You're sitting down around a campsite talking about knives in a bushcraft situation, and you'll have a lot of different equipment on you. I mean, you can see some, like LT Wright Knives has danglers and styles such as that, where you want it lower on your hips so you don't notice it in a lot of the different movement scenarios that you have, because it can get caught on plants. It can get caught, even inside the house sometimes. So that's one of the reasons why it's there. And it's just a style when it dangles and it's low like that that's become popular, because a lot of bushcraft knives, have that Scandinavian influence where they go,
right.
on the neck, and they're able to pull them out because they want to be able to pull them out with mittens, so they have a knob on the end and the weird knob on the side here. But they've always just sat low, and some of those traditions have also kind of carried on with a lot of bushcraft knives.
All right. That answers the question, because, and obviously, if you're in a bushcrafting or a survival situation, you are using your knife in much more varied than we would on the daily, right? That's our normal daily lives. And not only that, but you're also going to find yourself in a lot more positions, right? You could be running, you could be crouching, you could be whatever. So I guess retention, it makes a lot of sense why it would sit so deep in that sheath. But man, it just always bothers me. Just a personal thing. So I was wondering why. That makes sense.
I have my own clip that I made for this aqua salt. But even then, this guy sticks out real far with me. And I've had, like situations where if I have a lanyard on the knife, it's almost pulled it out sometimes, or I find myself always hitting it when I'm trying to get out of my canoe, for instance. And so there are just different situations where I've learned I like a lower belt knife sheath. But yeah, there are some things where it's hard to get in there sometimes because it sits slow. You kind of have to have that balance in knife designing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I like a dangler personally. So yeah, like you said, White River does a really good job. I mean, there's a lot of companies that have great dangler systems. Now, the last one up from your list is another one of your designs, right? Mm-hmm. So it's another Condor, right?
Yes, correct.
And what's the name of this one?
This is the Condor WOODLAW. WOODLAW, I just had my wife's maiden name was Laura Ashley Weeks, and so I put LAW at the end of it. It's probably my most used knife out there, and it's just a hog. We were at the factory and found scrap, and I put the knife handles together, and I was like, this is like the traditional Viking knife that was found in, I believe it was Norway a long time ago, where there's really like no transition from the handle to the blade, and it's just a hog of a knife. And he's got a new sheath there. I just really like it. Point down the center line. You can hammer with the pommel. It's just a beast knife. A lot of things you think, oh man, straight handles aren't ergonomic, but your hammers, your tennis rackets, your hockey sticks, all those things have straight handles for the most part. And there's a lot to say for just picking up a broom and knowing what to do with it. And that's why I was just like, we're going to keep a very, very simple profile on this knife, keep it very PUUKKO and European style-esque. It's probably one of the oldest knife designs I've done for them. It's probably rolling on 10 years old now, and it's just a fantastic knife to me. It has everything I'm looking for in a knife, but I've also beat the crap out of this one, so I always
exactly. Well, and you've got a lot of field experience behind it as well, right?
Yes.
So I think that it's a worthy entry, because not just because it's your design, but because you've been using this and beating it up for over 10 years now.
Yes, and that's a good point. And I tried to grab knives that I just like grab and use instead of like the Condor Bush Thor is one of the best sellers and blah blah blah. And yes, I use those a lot, but like I don't know, you have your old reliable there, and I'm just like, why am I always using this one? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah. I like your philosophy on the handle. I actually like a really neutral handle generally with my knives. There are very few knives that put my hand in a position that I like. So I'm a big fan of this, but I also grew up working construction. So, I ran shovels and brooms and hammers a lot. So maybe it just feels like home.
Yeah. And that there was a big change in axe handles, and I am for the curve in an axe handle, but it used to be that axe handles for a while were straight. And some of the competition guys like straight axe handles. I think it's because they're just so used to using them so much and picking it up, But that's probably a whole question for physics people, because I don't know too much about
exactly.
that.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is you're going to use the tool you know how to use, right? Like you could buy every single knife on the table, and not use any of them, and none of them are going to do you any good, right? You won't know how to use a bow drill, you won't know how to strike a fire steel unless you actually use it. So there's definitely use philosophy is a huge part of it as well. Yeah,
it really sucks when my jungle guides are able to use a broken butcher knife better than I can use like a $200 knife.
Right? But the nice thing about this one, it goes for like $72, $73 on the website. So again, another nice affordable entry. That's something that I love about a lot of bushcraft knives, a lot of survival knives, especially stuff that Condor does, is really affordable for a lot of knife. You know, you're getting a lot of knife with the ones on the table and with a lot of Condor designs, and you're usually not paying an arm and a leg, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, we all like having more than one knife, so it's nice to be able to afford having more than one knife.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now I said that I threw a couple surprises on the table.
Oh, right.
So I have got this is a pretty new one, and I wanted to get your opinions on this. I've got an SE3, but this is the new one with the G10, like the contoured handles, and the S35 VN blade. So I wanted to get what's your opinion of the SE3 in general, and then what do you think about these upgrades they put on?
Well, I love it. I have two SE3s. One back from a previous company, which I love and is beat to heck. I could actually pick that up and I could show you how beat to heck it is too, in D2. And then I have SE's version of it. But can you? I believe the handle on that, like you said, is contoured and curved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like the Tops knife I just showed up earlier. You know, sometimes you have these flat handles, and you know they're okay and they work well, but you know I like the ergonomics of a round handle myself. So you know that's something different both of these companies are doing. But the G10 with an S30V, oh man, dude, that's super impervious to the elements. Is it S35? Did you say
S35? Yeah.
Okay, that's super cool. It's very different from them because you know traditionally Rowan and SE are doing 1095, so that's pretty cool for them to be doing S35 in-house.
Yeah.
Man, you know my first jungle trip was with Jeff Randall and them down in Peru, and I brought down the previous version of the SE3, and always used it, loved it because it's got a big generous choil on it. But now that generous choil segues into, can you show it up again?
Yeah.
Yeah, the knife. That generous choil kind of segues into the ergonomicness of the roundness there. Ooh, cool! And that looks like the rivets are blackened.
Yeah, yeah. The whole thing. It's not like a ground up redesign by any means. It's the SC3 everybody loves.
Yeah.
But definitely some upgrades that I think people will notice if they're familiar with SE at all.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. It's got the Coke bottle style handle. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I might have to hit up Mr. Rollins for that.
There you go. That's awesome. Okay, and then the last one that I have on the table. So this one is one that the Blade HQ audience knows. This is a knife that I kind of have an infatuation with. I fell in love with it when I was a kid. I think it's been romanticized a little bit, but since I'm always gentle to call anybody an expert, right? Because this is the internet, so you never know. But you've got some time in the bush. You've got some time using and designing knives. So what I have is I actually have I had to throw it in for myself just to hear what you had to say. I've got a tracker, the Tops tracker knife.
Wow, you want to trigger some witchcraft comments in the below, don't you?
I know. It can be a hotly contested thing, but I wanted to get just your actual, just full on honest opinion of this and kind of what's the story with this thing? What do you think?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I have all of Tom Brown's books. I have a copy of the movie The Hunted.
He didn't use a hatchet. He used a knife.
And
yes.
That also, I was a very, very incorrigible kid or college student when I saw that. So I loved it, and I have one of those. I love it. The original David Beck version is a little bit different, but because I believe he kind of convex the handle, and if you hold yours up again, you'll see that smaller blade at the beginning. He also convex the blade a little bit, which is easy to do on the rear part of the blade where you're kind of choking up on it. And honestly, when you use that little hook on the top, or that little hook with the transition from the small part of the blade to the big blade, it does unzipper a deer very well. I honestly have the neck knife version, with slight modifications because I want a belt sander and I'm a Scandinavian grind nut.
There you go.
And I absolutely love it, and it does chop well for what it does. If I'm going to carry a big, heavy mid grade knife, I would not bat an eye at carrying that particular blade.
That's awesome.
But that being said, I like mine, but I've modified it. I've Frankensteined it. I find that a lot of people do that with the knives that they like to make it something that they enjoy.
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of two rules when it comes to knife. If it hasn't cut you, and if you haven't modified it, is it really your knife?
Right. Yeah. You're either the for it or for it or against it. You know.
Yeah.
You got to have like a Rambo versus Crocodile Dundee versus the Tracker versus like another movie knife.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be awesome, man. That's a great video idea. If we do it, I'm gonna have you on and we'll go through them together.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go to the Outback Knives. You know, it's the most Crocodile Dundee looking.
That's a knife.
Knife ever. So
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and spoiler alert.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, that's good to know. So
I've got Crocodile Dundee knife posters in my office and everything.
That's awesome. I love to hear that right, because I'm amateur at best when it comes to bushcrafting, survival craft, that type of thing. I mean, you know, I can make fires, you know, without matches and stuff. I can build huts. I can hunt and skin and that type of thing. But you know, it's amateur hour, right? So I love to know that a guy that's out there more still loves these, like, you know, you watch The Hunted, you watch Crocodile Dundee,
Oh, yeah.
you're still doing those same things.
Yeah. Oh, at least twice a year too. But you know,
That's
we all
awesome.
were influenced by somebody, whether it be our dad, whether it be Hopalong Cassidy on the TV, or you know, like, you know, these different places, and they help you get a foundation where you're at. I think that's pretty cool.
No, I agree. I love it. Cool. Well, you know, based on your recommendation, I think I'm going to buy this tops when we're done here then.
Cool. Awesome.
There's actually a couple other ones I need to get on the table. This machete, I think I might add this to my collection, to be honest, because you sold me on machetes when we talked a year or so ago at Blade Show.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so I think I'm gonna pick one of these up. So I think that's probably next on the list.
Oh man, if you use it, I promise you, it will be right up your alley.
No, yeah, I'm 100% like, yeah. I think I just bought 2 knives today. I'm gonna blame you when I get in trouble for spending money, but.
Hope your wife doesn't see the YouTube videos. You never know.
Yeah, there you go, right? All right. Well, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate your time. And everybody who's watching, make sure to go check out Joe and all the different places at Bushcraft Global. Check out his knives at bladehq.com. And I think that's it. You got anything else you want to add, Joe?
Nope. If you guys have any questions or comments, email the guys down below or message them down below. If you got comments on the tracker, don't include me in them. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, let us know down below what some of your guys' favorite bushcraft and survival knives are, though. And I would actually love to know which ones you guys love that we don't hear a lot about, because Joe really opened my eyes to some stuff here on the table. So I'm sure a bunch of you guys out there have some great suggestions. And I think that's it. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Oh, hey, it's me again. Hey, if you like this video, consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, if you want to see some of the knives that Joe and Zach talked about in this episode, head on over to bladehq.com. Down below, there's a playlist, bunch of great knife content.